They say hunger makes monsters of men. But what if hunger devours love, too? In ancient China, a famine so brutal struck the land that even mothers, once symbols of care and hope, turned into ghosts of despair. This is the true story of when starvation broke every law of heaven and earth, and parents began to eat their own children. Story begins. It started slowly. A year of little rain, then none at all. Crops that once painted the fields green turned to dust. Villages prayed to the heavens, but the skies stayed empty. Rivers dried into cracked earth. The smell of decay hung in the air. At first, people ate what they could find: roots, bark, even mud mixed with grass. Families boiled leather sandals just to feel something in their stomachs. Then the animals vanished. The dogs disappeared first, then the cats. When the famine spread deeper across the provinces, thousands fled their homes, searching for food. But every road led to the same sight: corpses on the ground. Children crying beside their lifeless parents. The empire, once proud and powerful, turned into a graveyard. The emperor's court heard the cries of the people, but acted too late. Bureaucrats argued about grain taxes while peasants buried their families in shallow pits. Witnesses wrote of horror beyond words. One record from the Qing era reads, "The starving traded their children with others, so none would eat their own." Imagine that, Yani, parents exchanging children just to survive one more day. Markets that once sold silk and spice now traded flesh. The famine stripped away every mask of civilization. It showed what happens when hunger becomes stronger than fear, stronger than love, stronger than God. And yet, even in this nightmare, a question haunted the survivors. Who was truly to blame? Nature, or the men who ruled and watched their people die? The fall. The famine deepened. Droughts became endless. Clouds vanished for years. Temples filled with the weak and dying, praying for miracles that never came. In the southern villages, rice fields turned to deserts. In the north, locusts devoured whatever the sun had spared. People walked for days, their feet bleeding, just to reach cities where they believed food still existed. But the cities were worse: dead streets, empty warehouses, guards refusing entry. A few officials tried to help. They opened granaries for the poor, but it was too little. The grain was stolen, or spoiled, or sold to the rich. The rich fled. The poor stayed. And hunger ruled all. Soon came the unthinkable. Parents who could no longer bear their children's cries did the only thing left: they silenced them. A mother in Hunan province was said to have cooked her dead baby to feed her husband. Another family buried their children alive because they couldn't watch them starve. And yet, none of these people were evil. They were desperate. Hunger had erased the line between right and wrong. Scholars later called it the baby-eating famine, but those who lived it didn't have names for it. They only had nightmares. Some tried to hold on to faith. Buddhist monks gave away their rice until they starved themselves. Others turned to violence: robbing, killing, anything to eat another day. Everywhere, silence grew. No birds sang. No crops rose. The empire itself seemed cursed. And as the famine spread, rebellion began to brew. Because when a ruler cannot feed his people, the people stop believing in heaven's mandate. The aftermath and lesson. When the rains finally came, They fell upon a land that no longer felt alive. The rivers filled again, but they ran through ghost towns. Whole villages were gone, wiped from memory. Mothers without children. Children without names. The famine had taken millions. And those who survived carried a guilt that time could never wash away. The government buried the truth. They blamed bad weather, bandits, disease. But the survivors remembered. They told stories to warn the next generation's stories of how hunger destroys not only bodies, but souls. One monk wrote in his journal, "I saw a mother feed her child to the fire, then the fire feed her soul to madness." Even centuries later, the story of the baby-eating famine still whispers through Chinese history. It's a reminder of what happens when greed and neglect turn rulers into gods and people into prey. But beyond the horror lies a truth deeper still. That even in humanity's darkest hour, compassion tried to survive. Some shared their last crumbs with strangers. Some hid orphan children, even as they starved themselves. Because no matter how dark the night becomes, there will always be a few who carry the light. And maybe that's the only reason the world still exists.